Lady's words should be struck. We do not accuse witnesses of threatening others. That is out of line and outside the rules of this committee.
That, and I can have an
you don't get to determine
what's
struck down.
Well, you do have the opportunity to review the FTC letters. You have not come over to review those letters. Third, the idea that I believe both of these individuals who are getting ready to testify, I believe they're both Democrats. The idea that two journalists who happen to be Democrats—
Did you not give that offer at 8 o'clock last night?
I'm talking now. Your time was ended a few
Neither
seconds
of us
ago.
are in time.
I don't think they're here to help us politically. I think they're here to tell us the truth. And oh, by the way—
Your view is less valuable because you have not experienced what I've experienced. And that is an identity argument, that's a character argument, that's not a rational political argument that can actually be taken on in any way. It's more of a cudgel and a club than it is an attempt to open a discussion.
Well, I think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests. Because
hold on tight and watch Jim Jordan and Ben Shapiro hit Stacy Plaskett with something the left fears most: the truth. That clip was a full-blown meltdown wrapped in word salad and served with fake outrage. Democrats yelling about truth and threats while actively trying to silence journalists, shut down debate, and bully witnesses they can't control. Jim Jordan stayed calm, Ben Shapiro didn't take the bait, and somehow that completely broke the room. Facts versus feelings, Constitution versus censorship, and the left absolutely face-planted. If you smelled the hypocrisy too, hit like, subscribe, and buckle up. Let's watch the full clip before I give you the full breakdown.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not exaggerating when I say that you have called before you two witnesses who pose a direct threat to people who oppose them. It's funny when people have to go through that. Exactly. This is unacceptable. I'm ready for it. I don't know if a lot of other people are, but just as it was unacceptable for Kevin McCarthy to provide 41,000 hours of sensitive security footage to a biased talking head in an effort to rewrite what happened on January 6th. This is a new Republican playbook, apparently. Risk American safety and security to score political points.
The gentlelady's words should be struck. We do not accuse witnesses of threatening others. That is out of line and outside the rules of this committee.
That, and I can have an
you don't get to determine what's struck down.
Well, you do get an opening statement, and it's about,
so let me finish.
over.
The committee will suspend.
We know this is because at the first hearing, the chairman claimed that big government and big tech colluded to shape and mold the narrative and suppress information and censor Americans. This is a false narrative. We're engaging in false narratives here, and we are going to tell the truth. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. I would just point out the consent decree was in our report. We offered your staff also the opportunity to review the FTC letters. You have not come over to review those letters. Third, the idea that I believe both of these individuals who are getting ready to testify, I believe they're both Democrats. The idea that two journalists who happen to be Democrats—
Did you not give that offer at 8 o'clock last night?
I'm talking now. Your time was ended a few seconds ago.
Neither of us are in time.
I don't think they're here to help us politically. I think they're here to tell us the truth. And oh, by the way, the first FTC letter to Twitter after the first set of Twitter files, the very first question was, who are the journalists you're talking to? And you guys don't care. You don't care.
You don't want the 2011 consent decree?
You don't want the American people to see what happened, the full video, transparency. You don't want that, and you don't want two journalists who have been named personally by the Biden administration, FTC, in a letter.
The Biden administration
and you're saying they're here to help us. They're here to tell their story. And frankly, I think they're brave individuals for being willing to come after they've been named in a letter from the Biden FTC.
Is this your question time now?
No, I'm responding to your ridiculous statements you made in your opening statement.
Okay, well, let's get on with it.
Oh, now we want to get on with it. So you can say all the things you want, and I point out
I did in my
facts.
opening statement, as well as you had an opening statement. You said what you needed to say in your opening statement, and I, as the ranking member, have used my time.
Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. We will introduce today's witness, Matt Taibbi. He's a journalist and author. He's one of the authors of the Twitter files, previously worked for Rolling Stone, that right-wing publication, Rolling Stone, where so many Republicans work at. He's also written several books about American politics and culture. And of course, as I pointed out, as the Wall Street Journal pointed out yesterday on the front page, was named by the FTC. Michael Schellenberger is also a journalist, author, and one of the authors of the Twitter Files. He's also co-founded several nonprofits, including Breakthrough Institute, Environmental Progress, and the California...
Mr. Shapiro, you talked about white privilege. And just this week, I had a conversation with Rachel Lazar, who's done some work, a Jewish American woman who's done some work on this area, as well as having extensive conversations with Dr. Greg Parks of Wake Forest University, who's also talked quite a bit about critical race theory. And it's my understanding that white privilege is not telling individuals that they cannot speak, but it is a term for societal privilege that individuals have as a benefit of their white skin. And I don't think that, and I think universities would be remiss to then say that because you're white, you're not allowed to say anything that's critical of white people. I didn't know that white privilege actually went into that sphere. My understanding is it's just, and the issue is that white privilege makes people uncomfortable to talk about the societal privilege that they have.
Well, to me, what I say on campuses all the time is if you want to cite instances of racism that we can all find and fight together, that's something that I'm more than willing to stand next to you and fight, because that's obviously stuff that we should fight together. But when you just say that there is a white privilege out there in the ether and that by dint of birth your skin color generates for you an advantage, what you're really saying to people is that your view is less valuable because you have not experienced what I've experienced. And that is an identity argument, that's a character argument, that's not a rational political argument that can actually be taken on in any way. It's more of a cudgel and a club than it is an attempt to open a discussion.
Well, I think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests, because that's
I'm also interested in what you just said now, is that you would stand next to anyone who has this. So, Mr. Shapiro, my question to you is, for Ms. Dunston, the tying the noose around the campus and writing messages that target African-American young students, would you consider that hate speech, and then would you stand next to her and fight for her?
As I say, I would. This is the first I'm hearing about it, honestly. But
really,
yeah. But from hearing about it, maybe because it's local. I mean, I'm from LA. But in any case, I'm more than happy to stand alongside her and fight whatever group was responsible for this. Not only more than happy. I mean, you're talking about the alt-right. Again, I was the #1 target of anti-Semitic harassment from the alt-right last year. So I'm more than happy to do all that. And I think there's one more distinction that has to be made. When we talk about cases like Taylor's, they're horrific, and the administration is siding with Taylor. Okay, the administration is doing the right thing by Taylor, or trying to do the right thing by Taylor, as they should be. And I think that we need to make a distinction between cases where the administration is actively participating in the suppression of speech and cases in which the administration is trying to do the right thing in order to punish people for application of crime.
Now that you've seen the whole thing, let's say the quiet part out loud. Jim Jordan and Ben Shapiro were completely right, and Democrats hated every second of it. This hearing exposed exactly how fragile the left's narrative really is. The moment real journalists showed up with receipts, the response wasn't curiosity. It was panic. Accusations, smears, meltdowns. That's not oversight. That's fear. Jim Jordan did what Democrats can't stand. He demanded transparency. He pointed out that FTC letters existed, that staff were invited to review them, and that the Democrats simply chose not to. Then they had the nerve to cry, false narrative. You don't get to ignore evidence and then complain about conclusions. That's not how truth works, no matter how many times you say it into a microphone. And then there's Ben Shapiro, calmly dismantling identity politics like it's freshman year debate club. While Democrats tried to argue that your ideas matter less based on your skin color, Shapiro cut straight through it. He made it crystal clear. Judging arguments by identity instead of merit isn't compassion. It's intellectual laziness weaponized as morality. Calling that out isn't hate. It's honesty. The funniest part? Democrats accusing witnesses of being threats while defending censorship. government pressure on social media, and federal agencies naming journalists in official letters. That's rich. You can't scream about democracy while trying to blacklist reporters. You can't pretend to defend free speech while attacking the people exposing government overreach. And you definitely don't get to lecture anyone about danger while cheering on censorship. This exchange wasn't close. One side came armed with facts, documents, and constitutional principles. The other came with outrage, identity arguments, and procedural tantrums. Jim Jordan represented accountability. Ben Shapiro represented logic. And the Democrats represented exactly why Americans don't trust Washington anymore. This wasn't just a hearing. It was a live demonstration of why the left loses when sunlight shows up.